They asked me to take the family photos, said I had a steady hand. You're always so reliable. Mom smiled, slipping the strap of the camera around my neck. Try to get everyone before dessert. I looked down at the list she handed me, group shots Candid's one big reunion photo in front of the fountain. Printed in bold at the top, Langford Family 2024 Reunion, hosted by Olivia Langford and guests. Guests. I guess that's what I was now. They hadn't even given me a seat. The tables were arranged in a wide semicircle on the back lawn, crisp white linens catching the afternoon sun. I counted them 9 full rounds, 8 seats each, all with place cards in careful cursive. Not a single one had my name. "Hey, Grace," Uncle Ron called out, lifting his wine glass. "Can you get a shot of this table? Olivia really knocked it out of the park, huh?" I nodded and raised the camera, framing them like strangers. I'd RSVP'd early. I'd flown in. I'd even brought a gift, a hand-bound album I'd spent weeks compiling, full of scanned photos from past reunions. I didn't see it anywhere on the welcome table. I did see Olivia in a linen jumpsuit and block heels, walking with purpose between guests. She was glowing. Of course she was. The golden child always knew where the light was. "Can you believe she got us this resort?" Aunt Margie whispered behind me. Her connections really came through. The corner of my mouth twitched. Connections. Right. I turned toward the garden path that led to my assigned room. It wasn't in the main lodge or even the guest villas. It was a converted maintenance shed behind the pool house. Temporary staff quarters, the clerk had called it apologetically. Room 12B, no view, no toiletries. But it did have a thin set of twin beds and a stack of folded towels, the kind you'd find in employee housing. I sat on the edge of the mattress, still holding the camera. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd remembered just enough to use me. And somehow that was worse. I wasn't always the one behind the camera. There are photos. Faded, overexposed snapshots from the 80s, where I'm front and center, gap-toothed, muddy-kneed, clutching a papier-mâché volcano or a spelling bee ribbon. In those, Mom's hand rests on my shoulder. Her smile is real if distant. Then Olivia was born. 4 years younger, she came with glitter and praise. Wide eyes, perfect curls, a laugh that echoed like wind chimes. People bent toward her naturally. They always have. I was 9 when Mom first used the phrase, "let her have her moment." It was my piano recital. I had practiced Clair de Lune for weeks. Olivia, 5 at the time, interrupted halfway through to do a twirl in front of the living room. Everyone clapped. I finished the piece in silence. At 10, I brought home a handmade card for Mother's Day watercolor and pressed lavender. Olivia gave her a song. Off-key, forgettable. Mom cried. "You girls are so different," she'd say, looking at us like we were flavors she couldn't quite reconcile. Grace is steady. Olivia is sunshine. I learned what to be. Helpful, uncomplicated, quiet. By high school, I stopped asking them to come to my debates. Olivia was always in something theater cheer, some club Mom had to bake for. I once overheard Dad tell a neighbor, "Grace, she's our grounded one. Doesn't need much attention." That wasn't true. I just learned how to go without it. College was a scramble of scholarships, dorm jobs, late-night tutoring sessions. I didn't come home for breaks. I couldn't afford to financially or emotionally. Olivia stayed local, took a gap year, dated musicians, artists, flirted with acting. When she posted a moody black and white portrait captioned, "Not all who wander are lost," Mom shared it on Facebook with my brilliant baby. When Dad's consulting firm collapsed in 2010, it was me they called. Their voices trembled on the phone. "The house might go. We just need a buffer, just a little help." I wired $5,000 that night, then another 5 the next month. Over a year, I sent nearly $30,000, skipped vacations, deferred my student loans. They kept the house. No one mentioned it again. Later, when Mom had a minor health scare, a word she liked to use like a leash, she hinted at hospital bills piling up. Olivia had just gotten engaged to a tech startup guy named Matthew. She wanted to recreate Grandma's ring, but didn't have the funds. 2 weeks later, I sent $15,000. I got a thank you card. Signed, "Love Mom," no return address. The ring showed up on Olivia's Instagram a month later. Oval cut set in platinum captioned, "Family Traditions Reborn." No one tagged me. When I asked gently just once about the medical expenses, Mom replied, "I thought you gave it freely," then added, "It's not like you have children to worry about." That's how it always went. My usefulness was mentioned only when needed. My silence was expected. My stability assumed. I was the one who remembered birthdays, who sent thoughtful gifts, who paid for Aunt Rachel's surgery when her insurance lapsed. The one who organized a virtual memorial when Grandpa died during the lockdown. I wasn't invited to the in-person gathering they held later. There were restrictions, Olivia said. You wouldn't have wanted to risk it. That was the year I stopped sending holiday cards. No one noticed. I moved cities, launched my own business. Quietly, deliberately, I began acquiring boutique properties in distressed markets, hotels, inns, beach houses with potential. The Langford family had always vacationed at the coast. Same place, same porch, same traditions. That resort had come up for sale 6 months ago. I recognized the name instantly. Drove out alone, walked the grounds, smelled the mildew in the curtains, saw the sagging deck rails. It was tired, forgotten, just like I'd been. I bought it anyway, closed through a holding company, rebranded discreetly, began renovations. And when I saw the family email from Olivia, guess what? I got us the perfect venue for this year's reunion. Trust me, you're going to love it. I said nothing. Let them book it. Let them gather on ground they thought was theirs. I didn't need an invitation. I already had the keys. Success came quietly. There was no breakthrough moment, no champagne cork or viral article. Just years of showing up, saving, learning when to speak and when to let other people take credit, letting my name stay small while my value grew behind the scenes. I lived alone in a top-floor apartment I never showed on social media. The view wasn't dramatic, just a narrow stretch of skyline framed by telephone wires, but it was mine, paid in full. I traveled when I wanted to, worked when I chose, took meetings in quiet cafes, negotiated contracts in my own name, bought small buildings others had written off, turned them, held some, let others go. I never told anyone in the family what I did. The last time I tried years ago, Mom blinked and said, "Oh, like Airbnb?" I said yes. It was easier. I heard Olivia had started a lifestyle blog, then a podcast, then some kind of consulting. She posted selfies in airports and wrote captions about gratitude. Her voice was everywhere, even when she wasn't saying anything. Mine stayed where it had always been, off to the side, working. When the property listing came across my desk, I recognized it before I read the address. Seacliff Grove Inn, once a family staple. Beige clapboard siding, rocking chairs on every porch, a fountain that never quite worked. The place with mosquito bites, board games, and the scent of low tide. Where Dad grilled too much corn and Mom insisted Olivia had the voice of an angel during beach karaoke. I hadn't been back in over a decade. The resort was in distress financially, structurally, cosmetically. Years of neglect under new management, occupancy down, reviews sour. The owners were desperate. I bought it in silence, not for nostalgia, not for revenge. I bought it because I could. A shell company handled the paperwork. I kept the staff, approved modest renovations. New linens, fresh paint, better lighting. I didn't change the name. I didn't need to. I told no one, not even when I saw the group booking come through. Langford Family Reunion, 42 guests, submitted by Olivia Langford. Email signature, Olivia Langford. Lifestyle curator and event strategist. That made me laugh. Just once, sharp and low. The staff prepped the space, upgraded a few rooms, offered the family a promotional package through my firm's hospitality division. Olivia accepted. Called it a favor from a friend in the industry. I let her believe that. I even ensured she got the suite with the balcony, the good light, and the wine fridge. She would expect that. She always did. I didn't ask for a room. I didn't call ahead. I simply showed up luggage in hand and watched the front desk clerk pause as my name lit up the screen. Her eyes widened slightly. Ms. Langford. Of course. She handed me the keys to room 12B. Temporary staff housing, 2 twin beds, 1 window. I nodded, said thank you, and walked toward the back of the property. No protest, no correction. Let them play their parts. Let them think I was there by accident. I arrived at the welcome dinner 10 minutes early. No one noticed. The courtyard was dressed in fairy lights, rented drapery, and thin optimism. Paper lanterns bobbed above the buffet tables. Folded menus bore Olivia's signature in looping gold script. A cousin I hadn't seen in years greeted me with vague warmth, the kind reserved for distant aunts or tolerated exes. I returned the smile, said nothing. Aunt Margie waved me over to rearrange folding chairs. I did. A niece handed me a stack of napkins and whispered, "Aunt Olivia said you know how to fold these the fancy way." I didn't, but I nodded. My name wasn't on the place cards. Again. I found a seat at the overflow table tucked near the back beside the restroom sign and a struggling potted fern. No centerpiece, no candle. Across the lawn, Olivia twirled in a blush silk maxi dress, hugging relatives, fielding compliments, curating photos over her shoulder. Every few minutes, someone raised a glass to her. She planned this entire weekend. She negotiated the group rate herself. Her taste, it's just impeccable. I cut into my chicken, chewed slowly. Midway through the meal, a staff member approached the head table. He was young, nervous, holding a clipboard. I recognized him from the resort orientation packets. He whispered something to Olivia, who blinked, then said, "That's not what we discussed." The labels were supposed to be in rose gold, not silver. The server apologized. She waved him away. A few minutes later, another staffer approached me. She looked vaguely familiar. Front desk, maybe housekeeping. She paused beside my table, eyes scanning a printed list. Then she leaned down. "Ms. Langford. Just wanted to confirm tomorrow's brunch layout. 6 long tables, printed programs, no alcohol until after speeches." I glanced up. "That's fine." She nodded. "We've added your name to the staff directory. Any changes, just text me directly." Then she walked away. No one at my table reacted. No one had heard her. But I sat back just slightly and let the weight of that moment settle. They still had me listed in the system, not as a guest, not as family, as the owner. They didn't know, but the walls did, the floorboards did. The windows, the locks, the contract that paid for every chair, every napkin, every lantern they now called beautiful, they all knew. And tomorrow, so would everyone else. Brunch was held in the garden pavilion. Soft jazz played over the speakers. The tables were dressed in ivory linen with eucalyptus runners. Centerpieces of white peonies stood in crystal vases. A backdrop near the stage read "The Langford Legacy" in looping cursive. I arrived late on purpose. Most of the family was already seated, filling coffee cups, flipping through printed programs that Olivia had designed. She stood at the podium near the stage, beaming as the event manager handed her a clipboard. Matthew, her fiancé, trailed behind her like a well-trained shadow. They looked like a magazine spread. I slipped into a chair near the rear. No one noticed. The manager tapped the microphone. "Before we begin, we'd like to thank the venue for going above and beyond and hosting this special weekend. The staff, the presentation, the coordination, every detail has been exceptional. Polite applause." He continued. "And most of all, we're honored to recognize our newest partner and majority shareholder, the person who made this weekend possible." He turned slightly, raised his glass. "To Ms. Grace Langford." Silence. Chairs creaked. Forks paused mid-air. A few heads turned toward the back. My name hung in the air, suspended like dust. I stood. Not quickly. Just enough to be seen. Olivia blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Mom stared at me like I'd spoken in a language she didn't understand. I didn't raise my glass. I didn't smile. I walked slowly toward the stage heels, quiet on stone. The manager stepped aside. Olivia remained frozen, still holding the clipboard. I stopped near the microphone, didn't touch it. "I hope you're enjoying brunch," I said. My voice carried not loud, but clear. "I'm glad everyone made it this year. It's a beautiful space. Excellent food. Good light for photos." A few nervous chuckles. I looked around the pavilion. When I bought this property 6 months ago, I didn't know the family would return here. But when I saw the group booking come through under Olivia's name, I approved it. I turned to her. "At a discount." Olivia flushed. Matthew reached for her elbow, but she pulled away. "I didn't change the name." I continued. "Didn't need to. I just paid for the things that matter, the foundation, the roof, the staff, the chairs." I let the silence stretch. For a while, I wondered if I should say something, if I should clarify my role. But then I realized you already had a version of me that worked better. The helper, the extra hand, the one with the camera. Mom's face shifted confusion, then something sharper. She opened her mouth. I raised my hand. I'm not angry, I said. I just don't want to be invisible anymore. I stepped back, left the microphone untouched. As I turned, I saw Claire, my cousin, watching me from 2 tables over. She nodded. Just once. It was enough. I walked out of the pavilion without a word, past the fountain, past the long buffet line, past the chalkboard sign that read, "Welcome home." The air smelled like citrus and apology. Behind me, I heard nothing. No footsteps, no applause. Only the sound of silverware being quietly set down. I didn't go back to the pavilion. I walked past the check-in desk, past the empty front porch where rocking chairs creaked gently in the breeze. My suitcase was already packed. I had planned to leave after brunch regardless of what happened. The valet didn't ask for my ticket. He recognized me now. As I stepped toward the car, I heard footsteps behind me. Grace. I didn't turn. Grace, wait. Mom's voice. I stopped but didn't face her. She came up beside me out of breath, holding her purse like a shield. Her blouse was rumpled, one earring missing. She looked smaller in daylight. You didn't have to make a scene, she said quietly. You could have told us privately. I kept my gaze on the gravel drive. I did tell you, I said. Every time I helped, every time I stayed quiet. That was me telling you. She swallowed. This weekend was for family. I nodded. And I'm family. She hesitated. I don't know what you want me to say. You don't need to say anything. I opened the car door. She touched my arm. You embarrassed Olivia. I looked at her then. She embarrassed herself. I got in, closed the door. Through the window, I watched her take a step back. Her mouth moved, but no words came. After a moment, she turned and walked away, not quickly, not defiantly. Just slowly, like someone who wasn't sure where to go. The car pulled forward, past the garden where Olivia posed for someone else's camera now, past the sign that still bore our name. The resort would host other families, other reunions, other people who understood how to see each other fully. But I wouldn't be among them. Not anymore. I didn't leave angry. I left full. Of memory. Of clarity. Of silence that finally belonged to me. Maybe you've been there too. Standing at the edge of a family you kept trying to belong to. Maybe you've handed over time, money, years just to stay in the frame. And maybe, like me, you learned that walking away doesn't mean you gave up. It means you stopped waiting to be erased. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who understands. Someone who's had to build peace from silence. And if you're still finding your voice, know this. You are not alone, and you were never invisible. Not here, not to us.
Hey there, I'm Opilia. I'm a 32-year-old freelance graphic designer, and lately my business has been on fire. I've been riding high on the success and couldn't be more thrilled with how my career is shaping up. Or so I thought. I've been married to Eric for 5 years now. He's a charming real estate agent, always saying the right thing. We met at a friend's barbecue, and sparks flew from the start. His family welcomed me with open arms, especially his dad, George. I thought I'd hit the in-law jackpot. Opilia, darling, you're the daughter I never had, George would say, patting my hand at family dinners. I'd beam with pride, feeling like I truly belonged. My home office is my sanctuary, the place where all the magic happens. I've poured my heart into creating it, from the ergonomic chair to the state-of-the-art computer setup. Your office is amazing, babe, Eric would say, leaning against the doorframe. You've really outdone yourself. I'd smile, feeling on top of the world. But lately there's been an odd edge to his compliments, as if he's forcing the words out. My best friend, Lydia, noticed it too. Over coffee last week, she asked, "Is everything okay with Eric? He seemed a bit off at your birthday party." I shrugged it off, saying, "Oh, he's just stressed about work, you know how it is." But truthfully, I noticed things too. Little comments, the way his jaw tightens when I talk about a successful project, the subtle eye roll when I mention a new client. Eric's sister, Melissa, has always been supportive, but lately she's been checking in more often. "How are things with you and Eric?" she'd ask, her voice full of concern. I'd assure her everything was fine, but deep down, I was starting to wonder. Then there's George. He's always been a bit intense, but recently, I've caught him watching me with a calculating look. You know, Pilia, he said at our last family dinner, it's admirable how you've built your business. But don't you think it's time to slow down? Maybe start thinking about a family? I laughed it off, but the comment stuck with me. Why would I need to slow down? My business is thriving, and Eric and I had agreed we weren't ready for kids yet, or at least I thought we had. As I sit here in my office, staring at the screen, I can't shake the feeling that something's not right. The perfect life I thought I had is starting to feel like an illusion, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep pretending everything's okay. But hey, that's life, right? Just when you think you've got it all figured out, bam, the rug gets pulled out from under you. Stay tuned because this story is just getting started. I couldn't believe my ears. There I was, standing frozen in the hallway, listening to my husband and father-in-law plotting to destroy everything I'd worked so hard for. Dad, we need to do something about Opilia's office. Eric's voice drifted from the living room. Her success, it's too much. George's reply made my blood run cold. Don't worry, son. I've got a plan. We'll stage a little accident. A burst pipe maybe. Water damage can be so destructive. I clamped my hand over my mouth to keep from gasping. My mind raced, replaying every interaction I'd had with them over the past few months. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The time Eric accidentally spilled coffee on my laptop. The way George always seemed to interrupt during important client calls. It wasn't just coincidence or bad luck, it was deliberate. I stumbled back to my office, locking the door behind me. My hands shook as I dialed Lydia's number. Lydia, I need you. Can you come over? An hour later, we sat in a coffee shop far from my house. I spilled everything. Oh my God, Opilia, Lydia's eyes were wide with shock. You need to get out of there. I shook my head. I can't just leave. Everything I've worked for is in that house, in that office. Then you need to gather evidence, Lydia said firmly. You can't let them get away with this. She was right, of course. But the thought of going back, of pretending everything was normal, made me sick to my stomach. Remember last Christmas? I said, my voice barely above a whisper, when Eric told everyone at dinner that I was thinking of quitting freelancing to start a family. Lydia nodded. I remember. I never said that. He just made it up. And when I confronted him later, he said he was just helping me save face because my business was struggling. But your business was doing great, Lydia frowned. Exactly. It's like he's been trying to undermine me all along. I didn't want to see it. Lydia reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Listen, my cousin Sarah is a detective. Let me give her a call. She might be able to help. An hour later, Detective Sarah Chen joined us. Her no-nonsense attitude was exactly what I needed. Opilia, what they're planning is a crime, Sarah said, her dark eyes serious. But we need solid evidence. Are you willing to play along for a bit to get that evidence? I took a deep breath. The thought of going back, of pretending everything was fine, made my skin crawl. But what choice did I have? I'll do it, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll get the evidence we need. Sarah nodded approvingly. Good. We'll set up hidden cameras and voice recorders. But be careful. Don't confront them until we have everything. As I left the coffee shop, my mind was spinning. How had my life turned into this nightmare? Beneath the fear and betrayal, though, I felt something stronger. Determination. They thought they could break me and destroy everything I'd built. Well, they had another thing coming. I straightened my shoulders and headed home. It was time to turn the tables on Eric and George. If they wanted to play games, fine, but they were about to find out that I played to win. The next few weeks were like living in a spy movie. Detective Sarah hooked me up with high-tech gear, tiny cameras and voice recorders I strategically placed around the house. My home office turned into a surveillance hub, and I felt like a secret agent every time I walked in. Hey babe, working late again? Eric would ask, his voice dripping with fake concern. I'd smile sweetly. Just wrapping up a project. Don't wait up. Little did he know I was combing through hours of footage and audio, piecing together their sinister plan. And as it turned out, I uncovered far more than I bargained for. One night, I overheard a phone call that made my stomach twist. Jessica, baby, I'll see you tomorrow. Apilia thinks I'm at a client meeting. My husband was cheating on me with Jessica, his perky blonde coworker. I wanted to scream, to confront him right then and there, but I knew I had to keep my cool. This was just another piece of evidence in the growing case against him. As I dug deeper, I stumbled upon something even more shocking. George, my oh-so-perfect father-in-law, had a hidden past of fraud and tax evasion. I found old documents and emails pointing to a tangled web of financial deceit that made my head spin. I worked tirelessly, backing up all my files and moving my most valuable equipment to a storage unit. There was no way I was letting them destroy my livelihood. But keeping up the act was taking a toll. Eric began giving me suspicious looks, probably wondering why I wasn't panicking about my so-called upcoming accident. "You seem different lately," he remarked one morning over breakfast, his eyes narrowing. I shrugged, trying to stay casual. "Just focused on work. You know how it is." I needed an ally, someone on the inside. That's when I turned to Melissa, Eric's sister. I'd always liked her, and I had a gut feeling she wasn't on board with her family's toxic behavior. We met at a cafe, far from prying eyes. "Melissa, I need to tell you something, and it's going to sound crazy." I told her everything, the plot, the affair, George's shady past. To my relief, Melissa believed me. "I always knew Dad was manipulative, but this," she shook her head, clearly disturbed. "I'm so sorry, Ophelia. What can I do to help?" Together, we formulated a plan. Melissa would play dumb, feeding me information from family gatherings I conveniently couldn't attend. The night before the planned accident, I was a bundle of nerves. I triple-checked the cameras and recorders, making sure everything was in place. "You okay, hun?" Eric asked, his hand on my shoulder, sending a wave of revulsion through me. "You seem tense." I forced a smile. "Just a big deadline tomorrow. I'm going to turn in early." As I lay in bed, pretending to sleep, I heard Eric moving around downstairs, probably setting up for tomorrow's flood. Little did he know, I had a few surprises of my own planned. I thought about everything I'd uncovered, the betrayal, the lies, the years of manipulation. Part of me was heartbroken, but an even bigger part was furious. They thought they could break me, destroy everything I built. They were in for a rude awakening. Tomorrow, Eric and George would spring their trap, but I'd be ready. And when the dust settled, they'd realize they'd messed with the wrong woman. As I drifted off to sleep, a small smile played on my lips. Tomorrow was going to be one hell of a day. I woke up early, my heart pounding. Today was the day. I heard Eric leave for work, or so he thought. I knew he and George would be back soon to execute their plan. Sure enough, an hour later, I heard them enter the house. I stayed in my bedroom, watching the live feed from the hidden cameras on my laptop. They were in my office, fiddling with the pipes under the sink. "Oops," George said, his voice dripping with mock concern as water started gushing out. "Looks like we have a problem here." I waited until the water was ankle deep before making my move. I stormed into the office, feigning shock. "What the hell is going on here?" Eric spun around, his face a mask of fox worry. "Ophelia, thank God you're here. The pipe just burst." I crossed my arms. "Cut the crap, Eric. I know exactly what you're doing." Their faces fell as I pulled out my phone, playing the video of them plotting the entire scheme. You've been spying on us?" Eric stammered. "No, I've been protecting myself from your sick games," I snapped back. George stepped forward, trying to calm the situation. "Now, Ophelia, let's not overreact." "Overreact?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean like planning to destroy someone's career? Or maybe cheating on your wife, Eric?" Eric's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about." "Save it. I know about Jessica." Just then, Melissa burst in, clutching a folder. "I've got it, Ophelia." George's eyes widened. "Melissa, what are you doing here?" She glared at her father. "Doing the right thing for once. Here's all the evidence of your fraudulent business practices, Dad." As if on cue, Detective Chen walked in, flanked by 2 officers. "George Thompson, we've been investigating you for months. You're under arrest for fraud and tax evasion." Eric fell to his knees, begging. "Ophelia, please, I'm sorry. I'll change, I promise." I looked at him, feeling nothing but disgust. "Save your breath, Eric. We're done. I want a divorce." The next few months were a whirlwind. With all the evidence I gathered, my lawyers secured a very favorable divorce settlement. George's arrest made headlines, and his business partners quickly distanced themselves, leading to his financial ruin. Eric, tainted by association with his father's crimes, lost his job. Last I heard, he was working as a cashier at a gas station. 1 year later, I stood on a stage accepting an award for Innovative Small Business of the Year. My design company hadn't just survived, it had thrived. I looked out at the audience, seeing Melissa and Lydia cheering me on. They'd been my rocks through everything. This award, I said into the microphone, is for everyone who's ever been underestimated, manipulated, or held back. Your setbacks don't define you, your resilience does. As applause filled the room, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The past year had been tough, but I come out stronger. I learned who my true friends were, and more importantly, I learned just how strong I could be. Walking off the stage, I smiled to myself. Eric and George thought they could break me. Instead, they made me unbreakable. And as for me, I was just getting started. The story has ended, but I'd love to know your thoughts. If you discovered your partner was secretly plotting to sabotage your career, would you confront them immediately or gather evidence first? What would you do differently from Ophelia? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Harper. I'm about to graduate from one of the top universities in the country with a degree in computer science. It's been a crazy journey, and I'm proud of how far I've come. But if I'm being real, my family life is complicated. My parents split when I was a kid, and after that, my dad's side of the family pretty much disappeared. That includes my Uncle Robert. I have these vague memories of him visiting when I was little. There was one time he helped us out during a rough patch, but it's all kind of hazy now. As graduation gets closer, I've been thinking a lot about the past. I've worked so hard these last 4 years, but there's this nagging feeling that something's missing. Hey Jess, you okay? That's Mike, my boyfriend. He's been my rock through all the madness of college. Yeah, I'm good. Just thinking about family stuff, I say, trying to brush it off. Your dad's side again? He asks, raising an eyebrow. I nod, chewing on my lip. I was thinking about inviting Uncle Robert to graduation. I admit, testing the waters. Mike gives me a skeptical look. The estranged uncle? Are you sure that's a good idea? I don't know. Maybe it's time to try and rebuild some bridges. I pull out my phone and start scrolling through social media, searching for him. It takes a while, but I finally find Uncle Robert's profile. My finger hovers over the message button. What's the worst that could happen? I mumble as I type out an invite. Life goes on. I'm juggling finals, prepping for job interviews, and trying to hold onto my sanity. A few days later, my phone pings. It's Uncle Robert. He accepted the invite. Holy crap, I say out loud, staring at my screen. What's up? Mike asks, glancing up from his textbook. Uncle Robert, he's coming to the graduation. Mike sets his book aside. Wow. How do you feel about that? I let out a shaky breath. Nervous, excited, I don't know. It's weird, right? A little, but hey, if this is what you want, I've got your back. Graduation day comes faster than I expected. My hands are shaking as I adjust my cap one last time. My best friend Alicia gives my arm a reassuring squeeze. You ready, Jess? As ready as I'll ever be, I reply, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. The ceremony feels like a blur. Before I know it, I'm walking across the stage, diploma in hand. I scan the crowd and spot my mom, her face glowing with pride. Then I see him, Uncle Robert, sitting a few rows back. He actually came. After the ceremony, I'm swept up in a sea of hugs and congratulations. My mom pulls me into a tight embrace, tears in her eyes. I'm so proud of you, sweetie. Thanks, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you. That's when I see Uncle Robert making his way toward me. He looks older than I remember, more gray in his hair now. Jess, congratulations. Thanks for coming, Uncle Robert. It really means a lot. He nods, then glances around. Can we talk privately for a moment? Curiosity gets the better of me, so I follow him to a quieter corner. That's when his demeanor shifts. So about that loan I gave your mother 10 years ago, he says. I blink, caught off guard. Loan? What loan? The $5,000 I lent her for your education. It's time to pay up. My jaw drops. I don't know anything about that. Are you sure? His face hardens. Of course I'm sure. Your mother promised she'd pay me back, And since it was for your education, I figure you should be the one to repay it. I'm stunned. This can't be happening, not today of all days. Uncle Robert, I just graduated. I don't have that kind of money. His voice rises. Well, you better figure it out. I didn't come here just for the ceremony, you know. People are starting to stare. I can feel my face heating up in embarrassment. Please, can we talk about this later? This isn't the time or place. No, we'll discuss it now, he snaps. That's when my mom notices the commotion and hurries over. Robert, what's going on? Uncle Robert turns to her, his tone sharp. Perfect timing, Lisa. Care to explain why your daughter hasn't paid me back? Mom's face pales. Robert, not here. Not now. Why not? It seems like the perfect time to me. The family's all together. Isn't that nice? His sarcasm cuts through the air. I look between them, completely lost. Can someone please tell me what's going on? Mom sighs. Honey, it's complicated. Your uncle did help us out a long time ago, but nothing. Uncle Robert cuts her off. I gave you that money in good faith, and you promised to pay it back. I see Mike pushing his way through the crowd, worry etched across his face. Everything okay here? He asks. Before I can answer, Uncle Robert scoffs. Oh great, the boyfriend. Did you know you're dating a freeloader? Excuse me? Mike's voice drops dangerously low. This is spiraling out of control. Everyone please, can we just take a breath? I say, trying to defuse the situation. Uncle Robert, I had no idea about this loan, and I'm sorry, but I can't pay you back right now. Maybe we can work something out later. Later? I've waited 10 years. Your mother's been dodging me, and now you're trying to do the same, he snaps. Mom steps between us. That's enough, Robert. You want to talk about the past? Fine, my mom's voice shakes with anger. Let's talk about how you manipulated Dad into changing his will. Or how about the money you borrowed from Aunt Sarah and never paid back? The air between them crackles, years of buried tensions rising to the surface like an electric storm. I'm caught in the middle of it all, watching helplessly as what should have been the happiest day of my life unravels into chaos. As I stand there, my heart pounding, I can't help but wonder what other secrets have been buried, hidden in the tangled web of my family's past. The graduation disaster left me reeling. Even after the crowd had dispersed and I was back home, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than just an unpaid loan. So I decided to start digging. Mom, we need to talk about Uncle Robert, I said one evening, sitting down at the kitchen table, the weight of unresolved questions pressing on me. She sighed, her face etched with exhaustion. I was hoping we could just forget about all of that. I can't. Not until I know the truth. What really happened with that loan? For a moment, she hesitated, then slowly reached for a box of old documents from a cupboard. It's a long story, Jess. Are you sure you want to hear it? I'm sure. We sifted through faded bank statements and worn-out letters, my stomach twisting with every new discovery. A pattern started to emerge. Uncle Robert's name, always tied to some kind of money problem. He didn't just lend us money, did he? I asked, feeling the weight of realization settle in. Mom shook her head, her eyes filled with regret. No, he didn't. After your father left, Robert swooped in like he was some kind of savior. He offered to help with the bills, but there was always a catch. He guilted me into paying for his car repairs or covering his rent. It was never ending. A surge of anger shot through me. Why didn't you tell me? She sighed, looking down. I was embarrassed, Jess. I thought I could handle it on my own. The next day, I decided to call my grandmother. Her voice trembled on the other end of the line as she shared her own experiences. Robert, he's always been good at manipulating people. He convinced your grandfather to change his will, leaving everything to him. We didn't find out until it was too late. The puzzle pieces were starting to fall into place, but I knew I needed more. I had to reach out to Aunt Sarah, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. When I called, I could hear the surprise in her voice. Jessica, is that really you? Hi, Aunt Sarah. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to ask you something about Uncle Robert. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. What do you want to know? Everything. For the next hour, Aunt Sarah poured out years of frustration and hurt. Robert had borrowed money from her, promising to pay it back with interest. He never did. Instead, he spread rumors, turning the family against her. I'm so sorry, Aunt Sarah. I had no idea. It's not your fault, sweetie, she sighed. Robert's always been good at covering his tracks. As I dug deeper into Robert's deceptions, my personal life started to unravel. Mike and I argued when I canceled our date night to continue my investigation. Jess, I get that this is important, but you can't let it consume you, he said, frustration clear in his voice. You don't understand. This isn't just about me, it's about my whole family. I'm trying to understand, but you're shutting me out. He was right, but I couldn't stop now. I was close to unraveling the whole truth. My job search was suffering too. I bombed an interview, too distracted by a lead I'd uncovered about Robert's business dealings. I'm sorry, but you're not the right fit for this company, the interviewer said, disappointment in her tone. I left the office feeling crushed. Was I sacrificing my future to expose the past? That night, I spread out all the evidence I gathered across my bedroom floor. Bank statements, emails, handwritten notes. It all led to one undeniable conclusion. Uncle Robert hadn't just manipulated my mom and Aunt Sarah, he'd been exploiting the entire family for years. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over Mike's number. I needed to talk to someone, but I hesitated. Would this only drive a bigger wedge between us? As I sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of my family's past, I realized I had a choice. I could keep digging, potentially destroying my relationships and future, or I could let it go. But then I thought of my mom, my grandmother, Aunt Sarah, all the people Robert had hurt. They deserved justice, and I was the only one who could make it happen. Taking a deep breath, I dialed Mike's number. It was time to let him in on everything. Whatever came next, I couldn't face it alone. After weeks of planning, the day of the family reunion finally arrived. My heart pounded as I watched everyone file into the rented hall, including Uncle Robert. Thanks for organizing this, Jess, my mom said, squeezing my hand. I nodded, trying to calm my nerves. It's time we cleared the air. Once everyone was seated, I stood up. I know you're all wondering why I called this reunion. The truth is, we've been living with a lie for too long. I pulled out a projector and began presenting the evidence. Bank statements, emails, recorded conversations, all pointing to Robert's years of manipulation and fraud. You little snake, Robert shouted, jumping to his feet. How dare you? But his protests were drowned out as other family members started speaking up. He borrowed $10,000 from me and never paid it back, Cousin Tom revealed. He spread rumors about me to cover up his own theft, Aunt Sarah added. As Robert's facade crumbled, the family united against him. The decision to cut ties was unanimous. Unexpectedly, my investigation caught the attention of a corporate security firm. Impressed by my persistence and skill, they offered me a job in fraud detection. Months later, I was thriving in my new career, and my family was closer than ever, healing old wounds. Then, the news broke. Robert was facing charges for tax evasion and fraud in his business dealings. Karma's a bee, huh? Mike said, showing me the article. I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Justice had been served without us having to lift a finger. As I reflected on everything that had happened, I realized the importance of standing up to toxic people and the power of truth. My future was no longer shadowed by Robert's manipulation. Ready for dinner with the family? Mike asked, grabbing his keys. I nodded, grateful for the stronger, more honest relationships we built. More than ready. Let's go. The story ends here. What would you have done in Jessica's shoes? Would you have exposed Uncle Robert or kept the family secrets buried? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hi, I'm Lisa. For years, I've felt overshadowed by someone I could never seem to please, my mother-in-law, Brenda. Every day followed the same routine. I'd be up before dawn, moving silently to avoid her sharp critiques. By 6 o'clock a.m., I was already in the kitchen, the cold morning air mixing with the scent of brewing coffee. As the coffee dripped, I prepared breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, and Brenda's favorite, crispy bacon. The sizzling sound seemed to summon her from her room, like it was the only alarm she ever responded to. Make sure the bacon's crispy, Lisa. And don't burn the toast like last time, came Brenda's voice from the doorway, icy and sharp. Of course, Brenda, just the way you like it, I replied, keeping my voice steady, hoping to avoid an early clash. As I plated her breakfast, I could feel her eyes scrutinizing every move, as if I were walking on fragile glass. The slightest misstep would shatter the peace. The morning light barely seeped through the curtains when her voice cut through the stillness. I want this house spotless today, Lisa. Start with making me a decent cup of coffee, not like yesterday's mess. Taking a deep breath, I measured the coffee grounds with extra care, hoping to avoid another complaint. The coffee maker hummed softly, a contrast to the tense atmosphere. I busied myself cleaning, dusting, vacuuming, ensuring everything was in order, even though I knew she would find fault anyway. The moment of truth came when I brought Brenda her coffee. She sat in her usual chair, watching me like a hawk. "Here you go. I made it stronger today," I said, offering a cautious smile. She took a sip, her face twisting in disgust. "This is awful. How hard is it to make a simple cup of coffee? Are you trying to irritate me on purpose?" she snapped. "Now, Brenda, I..." Before I could explain, she shot up from her chair, still holding the cup. "You're useless, Lisa. Absolutely useless." Her voice rose in fury as she stepped closer, grabbing my arm with a painful grip. "Please, Brenda, you're hurting me," I begged, my voice trembling. "Good. Maybe that'll teach you to do better." And with that, she did something she had never done before. She yanked my hair and shoved me back. I stumbled, stunned by the sharp pain and the few strands of hair that came away in her hand. I stood there frozen as tears welled in my eyes, not just from the physical pain, but from the realization of how far she was willing to go. Brenda tossed the coffee cup into the sink with a loud clatter. "Clean that up, and make the coffee again," she demanded before sitting back down. My mind raced. This couldn't continue. As soon as Brenda returned to her chair, I slipped out of the room, my hands shaking as I reached for my phone. With a deep breath, I dialed John's number. The phone rang, each tone heavy with the weight of what I was about to do. "John, it's me," I whispered. "I need to tell you what just happened." "Brenda," she attacked me. I can't live like this anymore." His voice came through, full of concern. "Lisa, what happened? Are you okay?" Tears streamed down my face as I spoke. She pulled my hair, shoved me. "I'm really scared. I don't know what to do." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I'm so sorry, Lisa. I had no idea it was this bad. I'm coming home right now. We'll figure this out together. Just hang in there, okay?" As I hung up the phone, a newfound resolve settled over me. Today was the day everything changed. I couldn't live under Brenda's control any longer. When John arrived, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. Without thinking, I ran into his arms, and he held me tight, speechless for a moment. "I'm so sorry, Lisa. I'm in shock that things escalated this far," he said softly. "But I'm glad you spoke up. Now, we need to find a way to fix this." Tears flowed down my face, and I felt so weak, but John's words, and just his presence, calmed me. That night was heavy with the weight of the decision we had made. But the next morning felt different, as though the air was lighter with the promise of change. When I came downstairs, John was already on the phone, speaking in a low, serious tone. "Yes, I understand the options, but we need something that allows for some independence too. That's crucial." He glanced up at me and gave a small, reassuring smile before finishing his call. Once he hung up, he motioned for me to come over. "I've been looking into care facilities that offer independent living arrangements," he said. "I want to make sure we find a place where Mom can still feel like she has her own space, but where we know she's safe and well taken care of." I nodded, grateful for his thoughtfulness in such a difficult situation. "That sounds like a good balance, John. Have you talked to her about it yet?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm about to. Wish me luck." We found Brenda sitting in the living room, her posture still holding a hint of defiance, though her demeanor was more subdued. John sat across from her, his expression serious but kind. "Mom, we need to talk about what's next. I found a few places that I think would suit you. They're nice, comfortable, and you have your own apartment." Brenda's face hardened. "So you're sending me away now, after one mistake." John remained calm. "It's not about sending you away, Mom. It's about finding a solution that keeps everyone safe and healthy. This isn't just about yesterday. It's about a pattern that we can't ignore anymore." Brenda's voice rose, her anger simmering. "I don't mean to be managed, John. I'm not a child." "This isn't about treating you like a child," John said gently. "It's about making sure Lisa feels safe and that you have the support you need as you get older." Brenda turned her gaze away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I never thought it would come to this. It's not an easy decision," John admitted, "but I believe it's the right one. The place I found has great reviews and the people seem really nice. You can come visit anytime, or we'll visit you whenever you want. After a long pause, Brenda finally nodded, her voice quiet. Maybe you're right, maybe it's for the best. I know this is hard, John continued, but I think it will be good for you. You won't have to worry about the house, and there are plenty of activities to keep you busy. Brenda let out a deep, resigned sigh. All right, John. I'll try it, for you, but I'm not making any promises. John gave her a gentle smile. That's all I'm asking, Mom. As we left the room, John squeezed my hand, a silent acknowledgement of the difficult but necessary decision we had made. The atmosphere felt permanently changed. It felt like we were finally moving towards something healthier, something better. The morning sun poured into the kitchen, casting a warm glow over the breakfast table where John and I sat, enjoying the quiet that had once seemed so elusive. He reached across the table, his hand finding mine. Can you believe how peaceful it is? John mused, a smile spreading across his face. I squeezed his hand, the tranquility of the moment washing over me. It's like we're finally breathing again. I didn't realize how much tension I was holding onto until now. He nodded, his gaze thoughtful. I'm sorry it took so long to make things right. I should have seen it sooner. It's not your fault, John. We both hoped things would get better. I'm just so grateful for how you stood by me and took action when it mattered. I replied, my voice filled with appreciation. John's expression softened. I'll always be here for you, Lisa. I promised that on our wedding day, and I mean to keep that promise. No one should make you feel unsafe, especially not in your own home. The coffee machine beeped, signaling that our brew was ready. As I stood to pour us each a cup, I reflected on how far we'd come, from feeling overwhelmed and undervalued to this moment of mutual respect and support. You know, John, it's strange how things turn out. I feel stronger now, more confident in standing up for myself. That's all I've ever wanted, for you to be happy and strong. John replied, watching me with eyes full of love. As we sipped our coffee, we talked about plans for the future. Simple things like redecorating the living room or planting a small garden in the backyard. Every word and laugh felt like a building block in the new foundation of our relationship, one no longer shadowed by Brenda's oppressive presence. I've been thinking a lot about karma lately, I said, setting down my cup. John raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What brought that on? Just seeing how everything unfolded. Brenda made her choices, and those choices led her to a new place. One that might actually be better for her in the long run. It's not about punishment, but more about the natural balance of things, I explained, my thoughts clear and firm. It's comforting to think there's some kind of balance, that by standing up for yourself, you're not just causing conflict but restoring that balance, John said thoughtfully. I smiled, the early rays of sunlight catching the edges of my hair. Exactly. And now we get to focus on building something positive here, just the two of us. John reached for my hand again, his touch reassuring. Here's to new beginnings, to peace, and to us growing stronger together. As we sat there, the world outside slowly waking up, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of peace. The journey had been hard, fraught with challenges and tears, but it had led to this new dawn filled with promise and newfound strength. And in that quiet light, I finally understood. Standing up for yourself is sometimes the most powerful statement you can make. As our story comes to a close, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think moving Brenda to a care facility was the right decision? Or do you feel John and Lisa should have handled things differently? Please share your opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe.